everybody. Welcome to the podcast. I don't want to do the intro. You do it.
Heck. Welcome to the Movie Overload podcast, where we will be discussing 100 movies, films, cinematic works of art. Bing, bing, boop. From a trip to La Luna to Parasite. I just keep overthinking. Parasito. Oh,
yeah, you need to make the intro.
I know things. Wow. I just start overthinking it, and then it's all bad. But that's the gist of it.
And everything in between fuck Woody Allen.
Yeah.
Whatever. I don't know.
All the interstitial tissue that is there that no one really cares about.
It is Parasito.
Oh
I was
God.
right.
Of course it is. Nice.
Okay.
Parasito.
Cool. Good shit. Okay.
Oh,
well,
although,
welcome.
okay, if there is a Spanish dub of Parasite when we get there,
I mean, there is probably.
we need to watch it.
Maybe.
With French subtitles. That is my caveat. Okay. Spanish dub, French subtitles, South Korean classic.
And we just piece it together.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
I mean, honestly, we've seen it enough times. Probably between
a couple times.
Yeah. Good things. But yeah, welcome to our weird little movie book club thing that we do
Wahoo.
every week, and sometimes multiple times in a week, and sometimes it's been about 7 days and we've recorded 4 episodes, and sometimes it's not the case because really what we all know is that we actually are recording every time you're listening to it. We do it live.
Yep.
Each person who presses play, we have to start over again. It's very frustrating. I'm very tired.
It's okay.
The temporal wormhole technology is so expensive, but we do it for you.
We do it
for the people.
Even with different guest hosts. It's very confusing, especially when we add another host in or guest host, because then we have to be talking. It's a mess.
Sometimes we're all free and sometimes we're not.
Yeah, if we get any bigger, honestly, I don't know how we'll be able to do this.
It's going to be impossible.
We can't really manage that many concurrent listeners.
I am so tired. I haven't slept in weeks, and we only have 5 people who listen.
They all live in different time zones across the world.
It's obnoxious.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
Once I put on an episode for fun in the background, just say, "Oh, what does my voice sound like?" I forgot again.
To talk and
such a headache.
It's so hard to edit when you're also recording
the episode. Yeah, it's a. I don't know how Hunter does it. I honestly don't.
And I hate having to play the theme song poorly every single time.
Yeah, you get your whatever that weird keyboard thing with the mouth nozzle is. That's the instrument that we play it on, of course.
Oh, I love that thing.
It's great.
I can't remember what it is, but Jacob Collier has those at all of his concerts. Actually, he doesn't. He never brings one to his concerts.
But someone always gives it to him.
Yeah, it's so good.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, people in the audience bring them because they know he's going to ask every time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's cool. Anyway, my name is, I guess Tofu Baby.
Tofu Baby.
Very nice.
What are your guys' names?
Make that your Twitter name.
Yeah, Tofu Baby.
Eat that burps the Tofu Baby. No, hi, my name's Aiden.
I'm sorry, were you going to say something? Okay. I just thought some other words started to come out of you, and then I started talking, so you stopped. And so I was like, "Oop."
This has happened to me in every single one of my Zoom calls recently. People being like, I thought you were going to keep talking. I'm like, my brain stopped working, and I'm assuming my mouth stopped working too. But apparently there was some disconnect. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I'm Hunter. I'm here. I'm okay.
And this week we are palindromeless. There are no palindromes. They have ceased to exist in this timeline.
For now. Sad time.
Because our palindrome is in a pinnacle production of peak perfection. And it is of utmost importance that, the palindromes.
Are you alliterating palindromes? Is that what's happening?
No, I'm not. My brain's not nearly at that level. I'm just saying words that start with P until someone says something about 400 blows, and then I can make a bad pun about how 400 blows, and you can all get angry with me for not liking classic French cinema, and
for
it
not
will be
liking
fine.
I
A
won't
very
be
good
angry
movie.
with you.
It's a good movie.
It is a good
it
movie.
happens
I
every
don't
time I
like it.
watch one. I'm like, okay, yes, of course. If I like this movie, there's definitely going to be somebody on the podcast that's like, it was boring. I couldn't get into it.
It wasn't boring. It just felt like it was sucking the soul out of my body like a Dementor from the franchise of which we do not speak.
Ooh.
Written by She Who Must Not Be Named.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, good times.
Ah.
No, it's for me. It's actually one of my favorite things we've watched so far. I had a very good time with it.
Intriguing.
I mean, I could see it.
I'm a French New Wave basic bitch. I'm into it.
What?
I'm very excited for Cleo from 5 to 7. If you look back at the list and see the things that we end up actually covering,
I'm looking
there's a
forward to
little
Cleo
bit
from 5 to 7.
disproportionate French New Wave love. It's a little disproportionate.
I like Agnes Varda. I've liked everything I've seen from her. She's great.
She's good.
I haven't even seen any of her supposedly great stuff. I've seen just weird outliers that people are like,
You saw
oh
La
yeah,
Pointe
she made
Court and
what?
yeah, isn't that what it's called?
What?
La Pointe Court.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we saw her first one, La Pointe Court, and then I also saw the Love Lost Lions, I think, which is just a bunch of like just hippies chilling for a while. A lot of weird decisions, and then Jane V para Agnes V.
What?
Yeah, it's a documentary about a French actress. It's really good. I was surprised. I thoroughly loved that movie. And Francois Truffaut,
He's good.
not my
He's good.
dude.
He's good.
Again.
We're going to talk about movies and people you like one day.
We really
Again.
will.
Someday.
It's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, we
Someday.
already covered your favorite movie.
true.
Well, okay, so that was the first movie I ever loved. I have no ability to rank movies.
Right.
Same.
I'm still just
I
gonna
love
count it
that
as your
movie.
favorite movie. No, it's your
It
favorite.
doesn't work for me as well as it did
Nope.
upon first watch.
No, it's your
but-
favorite. You have to stick to it.
It's up
Sorry.
to me, actually.
It is. Hunter's favorite movie will always be Lady Bird. He's not allowed to change it or reconsider it or think about it. You will always like that one, and I get to choose. I get to bounce around.
Oh, okay.
But that's just that's my special power. You
The
guys have
tofu baby is
other
born
special
anew
powers.
every week.
It's true. So I get to change it. This week, my favorite movie is. Let me pick one. Hold on just a second. My favorite movie this week is Multiple Maniacs.
What? You haven't even seen Multiple Maniacs. Why? You
my
haven't seen
favorite.
any John Waters.
Nope.
What is what is this bit?
This is Tofu Baby's favorite movie this week.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
See, I think that our podcast has a bit of a problem getting a bit heavy, where we just go off on
No,
bits
no.
and they just trail off,
Disagree.
and then we don't talk about the
False.
movies.
False.
We don't talk
Absolutely
about
false.
the 400 blows
I mean, I don't even.
to my kneecaps
No.
that were incurred over this week's watching period. I did watch this film, and then I watched it with a Criterion commentary to try and understand the artistic merits beyond the fact that I felt dead inside when watching it.
Well, I felt
mean-
very alive.
It's kind of a movie about a bunch of bad things happening. So,
I have seen a lot of movies about a bunch of bad things happening.
I suppose.
I have seen and
Worse
actually
things.
kind of enjoyed Sallow or the 120 Days of
yeah.
Sodom.
Indeed.
Pasolini. We don't have any Pasolini on our list, which is fine because he's not that important.
It
but
would
I
be kind of hard
fucking
to
love
sell
Pasolini.
people on. If we did do one, it would be the Decameron IMO, but we're not going to do it.
We should just
You
watch
don't
that. Because that movie's so horny.
We can do it for fun. Okay, so here's my thought. My thought is, I was thinking about this actually while we were watching the 400 Blows because of having so much fun with it, and I was like, I want to watch more things like this, but we don't have an excuse to. I was thinking, well, hey, maybe we're still having a good time when we wrap this up, and then we just kind of become maybe a classic movie podcast.
Or we could
something.
just start a second podcast. podcast.
Or we just start a second podcast.
Yeah, we can
can't-
just abandon this failed project that
no.
nobody's going to listen
That's
to.
not what I meant.
No. This is too good.
Meaning they
Okay.
would run concurrently.
No,
but
and
that
then
would
I'm starting,
maybe be
you
too
know,
much.
Anna and I have talked about doing a Shakespeare
yeah.
adaptation
Yeah.
podcast. I don't know how people would feel about it. I'm looking forward to it, especially after how much I did not like the adaptation of Hamlet that I watched, the Brana one, because it was so long.
If you could,
Yep, that's a genre. It's a podcast full of long movies that are of varying qualities of watchability.
But hey, there's some Orson Welles in there, and there's some
Yeah.
Kurosawa and stuff, so it's fun.
if you could do like a McElroy thing and just like make your
McElroys?
living off of just doing like 10 different podcasts, would you do it?
I don't think that's that's not even a question. That's the dream right there.
That is
That
the
would be
dream.
perfect.
The amount of stuff that they collectively have under their belt is wild.
It is bonkers. If we
So
had
much stuff.
but nobody else can do that but them. So
Right.
it's like it's not
Yeah.
really an option anyway.
Yeah, I know.
We just need to
Tragic.
snuff up on our like casual comedic energy, like just casually be absolutely hilarious
If only.
all the time.
The problem is even people that have really good chemistry and sound really good and just everything about their podcast are good. I listened to several people like that. I mean, man, they don't got any money. They don't make shit. Nobody knows who they are.
Yeah.
It's so hard to find podcasts. You have to have been like Joe Rogan or the McElroys or something. Like you have to have already done that. There's not a lot of discoverability.
Or gotten shouted out by one of those people.
Yeah, but even then, that just gets you a following. Like
Yeah.
very few people make their living off of this.
Yeah.
And those that do pretty well, but nobody else does it. So
Well, no one makes a living nowadays anyways. We're all making a dying.
Everyone's poor.
everybody's making a die-in. Yeah.
We're all going through our own 400 blows as
I
authoritarian
wish it
power
was as fun.
structures slowly tear down our self-worth and ability to function within society. And then until we are finally able to run free into the ocean and get overwhelmed by the vast emptiness in front of us.
Wow, deep.
Oh God.
You know what it makes me think of though?
What does it make you think?
It leaves me pondering like maybe it's not so bad after all, because like there's something very energetic and like aesthetic about slaps, and both of these movies existing under crappy authoritarian situations feature a lot of very entertaining slaps.
They do.
The second movie.
That's the
being-
upside.
I mean,
Yes, the one that we're covering next.
okay.
Yes.
Okay, so do you know this? Want to hear some facts? I know some facts because I watched things and read things about this movie.
All right, give me the facts. Do it.
This movie was shot without sound, and it was all dubbed in later.
Whoa.
Yeah,
There.
The entirety of the 400 blows?
the entirety of the 400 blows. It was one, done for cost effectiveness because lugging around sound equipment was very expensive, and two, Truffaut was a fan of American films dubbed in French, and he's like, yeah, no, you can just do that. Like, it's not a big deal.
Wow.
And he made it work. Like,
Yeah.
mainly because most of the actors dubbed their own lines and stuff like that, but a couple of the lines were just dubbed by him and his friends. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Sounds like
did not
something you
notice
do.
at all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it'd probably be a lot harder to notice for
Well-
us, but
Real true.
And then you can like totally hide things, like when they do those like panning shots across the classroom.
Yeah.
To make room for the camera, they had production assistants just like ripping desks away as from the path of the camera, and then putting them back after the camera moved, just as the movement was happening, and you can't hear any of that clamor sound because there was no sound being recorded.
okay, yeah, that was in my notes, was just like, oh my gosh, the camera movements, holy crap, all the time, so many camera movements.
They're good.
I specifically the camera movement from, and this is a very small detail, but like when it goes outside to the name of the school and then just pans down to like follow the kids on the
Yeah,
street. That's
Well,
my favorite one.
Okay, so that's not
by
the
far.
name of the school. That's like the classic, like the fraternity.
Okay,
like
it's the motto.
It's the classic like French saying, which
Okay.
is in this case ironic because all of the traditional like French structures that people believe in all fail this kid over the course of the
Gotcha.
the play.
Okay, that makes more sense.
Yeah.
I didn't pay attention to that, obviously.
I
but
didn't
had
either,
fun.
but some film critics did, and I read their stuff.
Lucky
Yeah.
Also, one thing I thought was particularly interesting was there's a building in the background that you see a few times, and the name on it is Jean Renoir. And I just kept thinking it was Jean Renoir, and I thought it was funny.
Nice.
And I figured it probably wasn't some kind of reference. However, it also could be because he's very...
There's some
Jean
stuff,
Renoir.
like there are pieces of graffiti in the background that are just names of some of Truffaut's famous favorite authors.
So that's the thing. Okay, that's what I did some of my reading on, is a little bit on Francois Truffaut's background, right? Because people probably know him as the director, influential in the French New Wave, etc.
Yeah.
But that was a bit later in life for him. I mean, not significantly later in life, but he was well known before this. He was a very well known critic. Somewhat instrumental in a lot of the development of film theory that happened in the kind of the boom of the 60s. Knew
All
a lot
that
of key
shit, yeah.
players. He would go to Cannes. He was one of the significant critics that would be invited to Cannes, and then at one point he decided Cannes is stupid. Fuck these guys. Their vision of film is whatever, and then they kicked him. They did not invite him back to Cannes. So he was a controversial enough figure anyway. What he said mattered. Etc. I found it particularly interesting just because I've been, working on my thesis, whatever. At the beginning, the movie says that it's dedicated to Andre Bazin, who I was like, oh, that I've read his stuff. He wrote a little bit on Kurosawa that I used for my thesis.
Yep. He's a fairly important dude.
Fairly important, to say the least. He took Truffaut under his wing, in very significant ways for a lot of his life. Even pre him becoming a critic, he was just very instrumental in his life. And he actually died on the night that they began shooting this movie.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
yeah, which is rough.
Yeah. So the backstory to this film being somewhat autobiographical is kind of cool. And I find the story of Francois Truffaut more inspiring than watching the film itself, myself, because it's one of those stories where you're like, oh yeah, someone can start off not doing much and just kind of figure their life out. And I feel that because I have no idea what I'm doing, and I am terrified that I'm going to die alone as a useless husk. And then you read Truffaut's oh yeah, so my parents didn't care about me at all. And because the war was happening at the time, the school that I was at couldn't really tell if people were not getting there because their house was bombed or because they were skipping class. So I just snuck into theaters with friends and watched movies all day for most of my youth. And we tried to start a movie club, but we couldn't get the movies that we promised that we were going to show. So we just showed whatever movies they had on hand, and people got real pissed. And then my dad found out about it and sent me off to a military school. And then I left and just kind of lived around with my friends and stuff. And it's the part of the movie where they steal a typewriter. At one point, Truffaut and his friend stole a typewriter to sell it, and it didn't go badly like it did in the movie. They were actually able to hawk the typewriter, but
Well, wait, here it says he was caught and forging payslips to keep the cinema group going. He then took to the police station where he requested his son be placed in a reform school for delinquents. He spent 3 months there. most of the time in solitary confinement.
Yeah.
Bazin didn't have the ability to help him in this situation, I guess.
No.
Rough.
There was the whole thing with his friend went to try and visit him a couple times, but his dad specifically said not to let him in. And so at the end, when like our good protagonist's friend comes to say, "Hey, he can't," they don't give him his present, and it's sad.
Sad times. No, I don't know. It's good. It's another one of those things of it's another autobiographical movie. I feel like we've talked about I think a few that are inspired by.
Yeah.
It's semi-autobiographical. He was very
Yeah.
clear about the fact that it wasn't actually autobiographical, but he was trying to just capture the feeling of that specific turning point in a child's life.
Sure.
You know, that childhood identity like crisis. I think the psychological term is like juvenile identity crisis. When puberty hits and you start growing more distant from your parents' views and you have an urge to become independent, and all of these things are coming around in your life, and it creates a big change. And a lot of the time parents forget that that's a thing that happens and do stuff like send their children off to a military school or something because they think that they're just a bad apple that can't be fixed, even though it's like they're going through a developmental phase that psychologists and educators are aware of. And for most kids, it doesn't tend to last forever until they are removed from their support network and they have to fall back on outside constructed support networks, mostly full of people who want to exploit them or don't know what they're doing and stuff like that. And so just
the way.
If you abandon your children and disregard their problem, it's almost like it makes it worse, and
Weird.
you don't actually help them.
Whack.
Right, yeah,
Doesn't
that's
make any
only
sense.
the thing that stood out to me about the whole thing. It's just like, is this kid being a little shit? Yes. Is he surrounded by people who are not helping? Yes.
Yeah.
It's not great. They're all like, oh my God, I just tried to beat him into submission and he won't listen. It's like, wow, that's crazy.
Wow, what a fucking jeez.
Well, and
I can't
that's
believe kids suck so bad. Wow.
so incidentally, one of the things that made it really hard for me to connect with the character is that he isn't a proactive character. He's a reactive character. He's always reacting to the environment, which is being used to comment on the environment he's within. But all of the decisions and things he's making are kind of snowballing from outside of his control, which is thematically good, but also I find it difficult to connect with reactive characters as much because they don't have that sort of like narrative agency. This is very far, French New Wave is very far removed from like Hollywood, 3-act structure, storytelling.
And that's why I really like the French New Wave. I
Which
mean,
I like a lot of
everything
those films too.
Yeah.
I love a lot of those films. And the French New Wave, I like the idea of taking the elements of like cinema verite and then mixing them with like cinema artistry, as it so eloquently was put in one of the commentaries tracks that I listened to. But that idea of taking this desire for total like realism and then mixing it and making it more powerful by adding elements of lies. You know, like one of those, the most famous quotes from I think it was Jean-Luc Godard. Every photograph is truth and cinema is truth at 24 frames per second, but every cut is a lie.
Yeah.
And so there's
that was like Bazin's big thing too. Totally, like his whole movement was just like kind of being counter to all of the people who are like, film is really cool because you can distort reality with it, with editing and the physical film. Like there's all these cool things you can do to like do something different. And then with people like him being just like, no, it needs to just reflect the world as clearly as possible, and you've got to just be, minimal editing, like just let the audience do their own thing with it.
Yeah. It's really fun that like this all comes out of like, and you can kind of feel that energy behind it, that there's so much like theorizing and there's so much knowledge coming behind. I really end up appreciating movies, I think, more when that's the case. Like even with like Columbus is an example of that, of in more recent times of Kogonada being like, making like video essays on like Bresson and Ozu and all these people for a living, and he has a graduate's degree in film, etc. And then he comes to like, okay, well now I'm going to use sort of my opinions on film theory and what makes a good film, and what I'm learning from other directors, and just honing all of that into my first movie just to make it specifically exactly the thing that I want film to be. And this feels very similar to that. Except the influences are obviously different. Truffaut isn't coming at it with like, I want to do Ozu and Bresson, or obviously, but he's doing, I mean, a lot of the people it seemed like he was into, like, obviously Renoir was in there, and
one very
Wells.
strong figure who was just sort of, with Bazin being like, I guess more a critic. I don't think he was.
So he's coming also more from a critic.
Yeah, this is
got
his
a very
first
strong
actual
perspective.
film. Which I really appreciate, like film theorists making movies and making them based off of that stuff. I never like them. I prefer experimental video artists coming in and making movies who are like the mad scientists, as opposed to like the actual chemists who just come in with this manic gonzo energy and just try shit. And sometimes it works and sometimes it is unwatchable. But the thoughtfulness and everything behind this, like the amount of craft that went into this, is something that just removed me even more, because I couldn't connect to the story, but I could like see like a bunch of different elements of the craft that were happening there. Like I really loved a lot of the extreme wide shots, and I wish it had a bit more. I kind of wish this was a bit more of like a slow, like slowly people walking melancholically through spaces for way too long movie. It moves a bit too fast. Because I love those like extreme wide shots that they have, where you just like see him walking through the environments. I'm like, oh yeah, and then it cuts and then it like moves back into like a story, but it's not like a structured.
See, but for me, that's what makes it work. And it's I mean, obviously it's very French New Wave, but it reminded me of a bit of some of the aspects of it kind of felt like Italian neorealism, but like deconstructed a little bit. It definitely reminded me of something like Rome Open City, but more dynamic in its movement and more free. But this is exactly what we'll get to it. That's why I have that on here, because I want to be able to compare these two movies selfishly. But that's what Francis Ha has. I mean, it's a movie that kind of that flits. It centers around a life, a person, and there's loose narrative. There's themes. There's good dialogue. There's lots of montages and elements, periods in it that are just kind of aesthetic and there and just contribute to your overall feeling of the story. But it's not something that's just heavily structured, which. I don't know why that works so much better for me. I vibe with it better. I like those movies better. And I think I'm starting to feel like maybe that's where I'm kind of hitting some of the more American films that we're covering here and not enjoying them as much. Is like, I even put this, like, I probably had a better time watching The 400 Blows than 12 Angry Men. 12 Angry Men is a better movie, but it's not a vibe. Like, I can fall into Grand Illusion, or even something like Tokyo Story. I can just fall into what's happening there, or The Seventh Seal, and I don't need it to be structured in a very
I think they both
aggressive way.
They both fall into the category of great movies, but I don't think that ranking like great movies that are doing completely different things.
It's nearly impossible to rank these films.
You don't.
They shouldn't be.
That's not the point. Is not to like figure out what the best movie ever made is. It's because cinema is not, there is no singular cinema. Cinema is a plurality.
Right.
It is a
It's
collection.
I mean, really, people rank movies, but like they don't rank books because why? I mean,
No.
The great American novel, it applies to like 50 different books. It doesn't, that's how this works. It's a medium. But yeah, because we couldn't rank it really, truly, because if we did, then we'd all have to agree that it's Tokyo Story, and everybody would be mad. Or some of us would not be super happy with that. But it's it's objective fact.
Great movie.
Perfect. Best.
Another one that
A vibe.
it's a bit.
You get into it and it's saying something. I guess that's also where I come at it a little bit more, is that what I enjoy doing with things that I like is thinking about them and explicating them, investing more and more time into them, watching them more and more, being able to talk about them and speak on them and write about them, and even use some of the small amounts of film criticism and critique that I'm capable of doing to contribute to that, which is why I like Kurosawa so much. There's so much in there that I can dig into. I can write a thesis on it. That's the kind of thing that I like. And I feel like you're more able to do that with something that is exploring an idea rather than delivering a plot. Yes,
but also I think this has a bit too much plot for me. It's my problem. I realize that. I have a problem with French New Wave films.
It provides
specifically
for me just
Truffaut and
enough,
Godard.
like just enough to have something to sink your teeth into, but enough freedom in the way that it's done that you can explore the way that it's done as well as just what it's saying.
Well, and I love moments in this movie. Like I really love the movie has one wipe cut. It's a natural wipe as the boy who's like following them and like snitching on them like walks across from like screen left to screen right. There's a natural wipe that follows him, and you're like, it's singular, and every time there is a wipe in a movie, it makes me happy because pretentious
you should love Kurosawa.
I like the wipes in Kurosawa.
Attack of the Clones should be your favorite movie.
Well, that's the thing, though. That's the thing, that the wipe as a transitional cut is, a passage of time. It is a change of location. It is a big movement, but also it is inherently silly and inherently cinematic.
It's so good.
And so
love the wipe.
It takes a bit of like the wind out of like a bit of the pretense out of any film when you include a wipe. That is my thesis. Some films, if you overuse them, I don't think you can really overuse wipes, but like when you use a lot of wipes, you get something like Star Wars, which is really pulpy and fun, and it carries that energy through it. And like Bunraku from like last year, big pretentious movie that a bunch of people.
Which one?
Baccarat. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Baccarat, not Bunraku. That's another thing. No, Baccarat, which a bunch of people rated really highly on Letterboxd. I'm like, oh, this is a bit stuffy looking, and no, it's like a throwback to exploitation movies, and almost half of the edits of the transitions are wipes.
Hell yeah!
And you're like, no, this is where I live. Wipes.
That's the way.
You do it.
Yeah, if I made anything, I'd have to transition every single like scene with wipes. There's no other way. I would try wiping for every just shot change. and it would just like deconstruct everything, and everything would feel so off and weird.
Well, so that's what I wind up making in my spare time. I do things like make a Star of David wipe.
Right, yeah.
And put that in a thing. Cool. And have that be amusing to only me. But there are just... Okay, so another moment in this is when they decide to go out to the carnival. They ditch school. Mm-hmm. They have a transition where they do a whip pan down from like the top of the building, and then they cut to a whip pan across the street, and it's just like a whip pan cutting to a whip pan, and it's like, oh, in 40 years we're gonna have Edgar Wright movies starting to happen. Like that sort of thing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's just very satisfying. Again, I think I think I take a lot more joy out of just somebody doing the thing that they like, doing something intentional. I think I take probably more joy out of somebody doing something that's very obviously intentional than I do out of something accidentally being good, which I think is maybe where we differ a little bit, I guess. Because some stuff, seeing stuff like that and seeing some of the elements of experimentation in Truffaut and being able to see that that's the artist doing that is probably why I'm still into auteur theory. Like it's because I like being able to be like, what is this person doing?
Well, and that's why I love Sidney Lumet so much, because his philosophy was, if you build the groundwork for a film and make it so all of the actors are incredibly well rehearsed and comfortable and everyone knows exactly what they're doing, if you build a solid groundwork, you will be able to allow those moments of just spontaneity, like uncontrolled magic that people like Orson Welles and Sidney Lumet were kind of obsessed with, like those perfect moments that just happen and you can't control them, that like chaos in the universe, you can't control them, but you can create situations where they
right
where they're possible to like happen more.
Yeah, no, and it's good. Like I think Orson Welles kind of obviously nails that pretty well.
I mean, he tried his last film. The whole thing behind that, at least from the documentary I saw, was trying to make an entire movie of just those moments, like trying to capture as many of those moments as possible, and just taking decades to try and do that.
It was good.
I still need to get around to that.
Yeah,
as with so much cinema.
There's so much to watch still. Did you okay, this is completely off topic. Did you notice that Jacques Demy is in this movie?
I didn't. I think it was actually brought up on one of the commentary tracks.
Policeman.
Oh.
Jacques Demy. He's another director.
Oh.
He's I'll pass it off to Aiden because Aiden is more interested in Jacques Demy than I am.
I mean, he made good movies. The thing that I find most interesting about it is I didn't realize before why certain cinema movements have certain names. And the French New Wave, one of the things that it's called the French New Wave, a wave, is because it was a collection of like interconnected filmmakers who all had all knew each other or were connected to each other in various different ways. And through a collective view of a new philosophy in cinema just kind of swept over French cinema from just this collection of various different filmmakers from all over the place. Mm-hmm. And that connection, that movement there is the French New Wave as opposed to just new French cinema.
Sure. Right.
Yeah.
And I mean, so I guess I'm sort of curious, and I mean, I guess he doesn't pop up in our 100 movies list, but Jacques Demy was clearly he knew Godard and Truffaut and was interconnected in this way. But I've never read anything from him, but I've seen Truffaut's and Godard's stuff everywhere. But Demy almost seems like a different character. But he did The Umbrellas of Cherbourg and The Young Girls of...
He made a very different type of cinema.
Mm-hmm.
It's very... I mean, Umbrellas of Cherbourg and The Young Girls of Rockfort are musicals.
Mm.
And they're colorful, they're choreographed, they're... the color and pop... His movies are just so rich with color. Is a big thing. Color and motion and just energy and fun. Sort of the vibe that you get there.
That's fun. I do wanna try his stuff. You have that box set now, don't you?
Yeah,
Fancy
The
man.
only way I can get myself to get into directors is spending way too much on Criterion DVDs and just like, see, I have made a financial commitment now. I have to watch it.
Right.
Yeah, it's awesome.
It's great until you get something and you're like, oh, this really doesn't work for me. I really wish I didn't spend like, I know it's 50% off, but still that's so much.
Just had that flash sale a little bit, huh?
Oh, did
There
they?
you go.
Oh,
Yeah, just
I'm
like
glad I
a
didn't know
week or
about
so
it.
ago.
Yeah, no, I was gonna, poke you a bit, and I'm like,
Probably not.
I don't need Tofu Baby to become like a tofu like bloated like broke mess,
Yeah.
filled with cinema
All I
and
can
empty of
afford
wallet.
is ramen and Criterion. Yeah, no, yeah, I'm glad
I didn't
hear
buy
about
any
it.
either. I kind of wanted to buy Squid and the Whale again every time.
Did I buy? I
But
think I did buy
didn't
that
do
one.
it. Yeah, you have that.
Okay.
I
See, this
don't
is my
know.
problem.
I want it. You don't even have that many movies.
You don't.
I feel like I do.
You
I
feel
have-
like you do.
I have more movies than you do.
I have like
you?
I have
Yes,
200
totally.
plus DVDs.
Oh, well, you definitely have more,
Yeah.
but I don't think you do.
I totally do.
I don't think
I
so.
have like stacks and stacks. I feel.
know, but
I
I
don't
have-
know.
Not all Criterion DVDs. I'm not that.
Do you have movies that are not on that one shelf in the basement?
No.
You have like one like long shelf.
Yeah,
You have
but I think
one
that's
shelf of
equal
a
to
bookshelf.
yours. I'm pretty okay. We can
Doubt.
compare later.
We'll count. We'll inform you of the results on next week's
This
podcast.
totally matters. Sorry.
Okay. I'm
Oh,
gonna
no.
I'm
It
gonna
doesn't
divert us
matter.
back to this film by
What?
by reading the Drill review.
Oh heck yeah! I saw that
My
too.
being a shithead can be traced back to boys' school when I was expelled for using the headmaster's computer to search eBay for lunch.
Delightful.
It was so good.
Okay, now we're talking about the movie. We never actually summarized the plot, but I guess it doesn't matter at this point because we've already talked about it.
Well,
Some of us think that it's too plot heavy, and some of us think it's it's just right. And I don't know what you think, Hunter. But
I don't know. I don't have much of an opinion on this movie. I don't feel very strongly either way.
Were you
It's-
engaged by it?
Yeah, like it's enough. Like I don't know. He's got something going on pretty much all the time to deal with, and it's just kind of shitty situations. And you're just like, wow, it sucks. Like he kind of makes problems for himself, but also like no one else around him is really like giving him a real chance. I feel like sometimes and it sucks, and obviously that's the point. Is that like the world is not nice to these children, so like that's fine. And like, but I don't know. I wouldn't say that I like got something out of it. I guess
Sure.
it was good though. Like it was solid.
I guess I kind of like I got stuck into specifically the way that he acts with his parents and this idea of like, oh no, they're mad at me for this or this. I can't be I can't go home. I have to whatever. Sending the letter of like, oh we'll talk about this in the future. Well, whatever. All of these different things. I think I definitely like. I feel like I can relate to some of that. I guess at times. Yeah. I don't know specifically. I can't pull up a specific memory of my childhood that relates, but also kind of the feeling of like I've disappointed family members, my parents, whatever, and need to make it up to them. Kind of aware that like this is about their emotions rather than my well-being. I think some of us have been raised in that situation and can kind of relate, but for those of us that haven't, it's probably not as meaningful.
I got some vibes from the whole relationship with his mother, which is entirely informed. She does not give one iota of a shit about him until she sees him walking away from the carnival while she's currently just snogging some like rando.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, so I have to be friendly now so that you don't tell daddy about this. And through the whole thing, the kid is like, just constantly like, you're only acting nice out of obligation. This is only like, you don't actually care about me. I'm paranoid about that all the time. Sort of things where you're like, do they actually care about me, or do they just feel like they have to care about me because they've invested so much? Is it just like the sunk cost fallacy of people? You know, you're like, oh yeah, no, I've known him for so long, and then, well, I mean, he's kind of crap now, but you know, I'm like, can't stop now.
I think I worry about that too, and I mean, I think I've had situations with parents maybe that have been sort of similar to this kind of thing of like, okay, I can tell that the reason why you're interacting with me right now is because you want to be on my good side for something, and not because you care.
Yeah, it kind of feels just like the adults trying to just be adults and like finagle the situations with children, or at least just younger people, and then just not even trying to like deal with the fact that like the younger person can kind of see through what's happening and just be like, dude, like, it's whatever. Like, I don't know.
I mean, if anything, you can totally. Sometimes with child performances, you have to just have them spell out how they're feeling because you can't tell. This movie, best child performances ever.
Best
Pretty
child
good.
performances ever.
Yeah.
And I looked this guy up, Jean-Pierre Laud, who's good performance in this, the best child performance I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And like, man, the guy like a bit later in life when he like grew up, man,
Well,
he's kind of hot.
this was his first film role. Do you know how he got the part?
How did he get the part?
So the directing team just put out an advert in the paper for like anyone to come be this. We're looking for the star of a new film. They gave no details, and they got thousands of applicants from like all across Paris. And of course, Truffaut just went through and just eliminated a lot of them based off of like like they don't look right, a bunch of stuff. And they got to the kid who actually wound up playing the lead character, and he didn't quite look right, but he had ditched school that day and gotten all the way across Paris by himself to appear for the interview, and he just had so much like
That's awesome.
energy and moxie in him. And they're like, I mean, we were wanting kind of like a skinny, raggedy nothing of a kid. You kind of have some muscle on you, but you got this part. My goodness, you were just living it.
It's interesting though, because he does kind of look like Francois Truffaut to me. Like I think there is some similarity.
There's a bit there.
In their face, a bit in their nose. I don't know. I think that's really funny because he basically is that kid.
Yeah.
But he went on and he appeared in multiple Truffaut films in the future when he was older.
I was going to say
in Godard films.
Yeah, I forgot I had taken a note on this, but I guess there are more movies with the same actor playing the same character.
Yes, well, there's at least one.
I saw there's
right?
like 3 or 4.
Are
There's
there
like a
3 or
bunch
4?
of them. Yeah.
I knew that there was Antoine and Colette, but I didn't know that.
The note I saw you said Antoine and Colette's Stolen Kisses, Bed and Board, and Love on the Run are all about Antoine.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I like that they kept it going.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want to dig into those more. Yeah. Oh, but he's also in Irma Vep, which is a movie I really want to see.
Yeah.
Because it's got
Gotta love them vampire flicks.
and it's got Maggie Chung in it, and she's amazing.
No, that's on my watch list.
Yeah, that one just got out of the Criterion, I think, right? So
It's been on Criterion for last 6 months.
oh, wait, really? Interesting. Okay,
Unless there are 2 movies called Irma Vep.
probably not.
Yeah.
No, I didn't mean the channel though. I mean it's getting a release.
Oh, that's right. It is. It's getting it's getting the new release.
I'm very excited.
Looks all snazzy.
Even though I don't know enough about it to actually deserve to have an opinion on it. I'm very excited still.
You get that. You see a poster. You read a tagline. You have some background, and you're like, I think I'm gonna love this movie. And then sometimes you do, and sometimes it is the worst thing you've ever seen.
True.
And you live with it.
But they're coming out with a full collection of Wong Kar-wai movies, and I'm gonna cry.
How many Wong Kar-wai movies have you actually seen?
I've only seen In the Mood for Love, and I've watched it like so many times.
True.
And I've just been like, I'm almost paralyzed by how much I love that movie. That's why I'm in the place that I am. So, yep. I really,
Yeah.
really, 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 really want to watch Happy Together and Fallen Angels in particular.
They are on Criterion Channel right now. You don't
I
have to
know
wait for
they
the collection to
are.
come out.
I know they are, but it's so pretty.
It is pretty.
It's
Don't be
fine.
seduced. It's like $100.
It is.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I don't have any money.
Yeah.
So. Cool. Well, do we have any more thoughts on this film, or are we ready to wrap up, do you think?
Only that the Eiffel Tower's in the beginning, and a bunch of film historians thought that that was notable because Truffaut was a big fan of the Eiffel Tower, and he had a collection of a bunch of little Eiffel Towers. He just had a collection of Eiffel Towers.
Truffaut is like my mom.
Yeah, you know, he has that real like wine mom energy.
Yeah.
Oh, I love Paris. The Eiffel Tower, it's so good.
My entire house growing up I guess it still is decked out in Paris finalia.
You gotta have that romanticized like Paris life in your head that you never follow through on because once you get there, your life will be ruined.
See, my
Through
mom
realizing.
she went there for her 40th, I think, and she came back and she said, "You know, I actually like the French countryside more."
Yeah.
And so yeah, so I think the aesthetic has gone a little bit more towards France and a little bit farther from Paris. But I mean, growing up, like everything, all of the little like mirrors hanging on the wall, all the posters, all the like little figurines on things. There was Eiffel Towers. It was Paris, and yeah, everything. So well, I guess I have one more thing.
I have two more things.
Okay, you go ahead.
You should go first,
Okay.
because I want to hear.
My
what
other
you say.
thing was when we were talking about Francis Ha kind
Okay,
of going
yeah,
about
that's
before. I wanted to mention that the score from Georges Delerue is incredible. It's amazing. It's magical. It's one of my favorite film scores, probably of all time now. It makes its appearance in Francis Ha as well, and it's very good.
Yeah, and then I started thinking. As I was thinking about saying that just now, I was like, wait, Francis Ha is a movie inspired with, stylistically inspired by French New Wave. She has France in her name. She goes to Paris in the movie. Oh man.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just like that all just like hit me just now.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, I do think I might have liked this movie if Adam Driver was just in it randomly.
Yeah. If Adam
You might have
Driver
sold
was
it
the
for me.
dad, like Marriage Story dad.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, okay. That actually does kind of there's parts of that that relationship with the kid kind of do remind me of Marriage Story, where it's like more about the parents' interaction and the kid is part of that and becomes kind of almost a pawn in the parents' argument and disagreement and whatever. I mean, which obviously that's just a fact of life. That's how it happens when your parents are not getting along well or in a divorce or whatever. You end up becoming a pawn. But at the same time, it does kind of feel like, in a weird way, if you were to do a double feature like the Criterion Channel likes to do, like with Marriage Story in this movie, it would be like seeing the same kind of dynamic almost playing out between like the parent perspective and the kid perspective.
Indeed.
Yeah. Anyway,
But I mean, it does add some.
there's some different details for sure.
So I don't think that in Marriage Story the kid was like sleeping in the hallway right outside the door because they don't have like any space in their apartment.
Yeah, there's not that bit, but I mean,
I
the
do
kid
love
is
the shot
aware.
in the movie where they like they're like rolling up a banner, but it's like it takes up their entire apartment. You just see like the Z-axis just extend all the way, and you're like, yep.
Also, when they go to the movies and they're having such a good, happy, fun time, man, I don't know, that just felt like my childhood of like, oh man, there's just one moment where everything seems good.
true,
and
yeah.
Oh shit, okay, I guess not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Apparently, that movie, that moment where like the father like shows like the mom's legs a bit, and like the gropes are a bit awkwardly, kind of stir up a bit of controversy in the Americans.
Oh yeah,
because
in America.
because we were still very much in sort of code era. Back here.
True.
Interesting.
Yeah, and meanwhile the French are doing what the French are doing. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's actually if that's what culture in France is like, or if that's just the American stereotype of what France is like because of movies.
I don't know.
Yeah,
But they don't seem like they're quite as what is the word? Conservative.
Well, as far as like
in-
sexuality
in
goes,
sexuality,
yeah, they do have like, just billboards with nudity on them, advertising like different like suntan lotions and stuff like that. Because whereas American culture has really linked like nudity and sexuality, it isn't that much linked in various different places outside of America.
Right. Yeah.
And like films like Amelie were released to general audiences, where it has like a weird bit in Amelie where she like counts the number of orgasms currently happening in the city, and there's like a montage, and you're like, for all ages.
Nice.
And you're like, I guess, yeah.
I do like that
Interesting.
movie quite a bit. I want to rewatch
To
that
see
one.
It's a
that
fun movie.
still. Alright. I was looking at the cast list and I saw that the mom from 400 Blows is in Amelie, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
What?
Dang.
I guess so.
Did not
You get
recognize
around.
her, obviously, but that was, those movies were filmed about, I don't know, 40 years apart or something.
A ways.
Just a bit.
Yeah.
It's been a while.
Oh, yeah.
But cinema is a flat circle.
Yes, I'm just going to agree with you.
I see.
Okay.
My only other note is about the title of the movie, because I went looking and I was like,
yeah.
why is it called that? And it turns out it's just because it's a literal translation of the French title.
Quatre cinq coups.
Yeah, le quatre cinq coups, however you say it. But that's basically just a French idiom, apparently, that just more or less means to raise hell, apparently.
Yes.
And so instead of getting the meaning across, they were just like, we'll just take the actual words and translate them, even though those words mean nothing to English-speaking audiences.
Right.
As per usual.
Yeah. Apparently, the like original English translator was like tried to like change the name of the movie to Wild Oats, which I think is a terrible name. And they were like, no, just keep it at 400 Blows. And I'm like, yeah.
Wild Oats.
It's like, I don't get it.
I'm imagining this movie being called that.
Yeah, it's like, why was that a better idea? Like, I don't know.
Because
At
you're
least 400
sowing your wild oats,
I-
like all of those themes of like sexuality. And like,
Totally, yeah.
there's that whole talk. He talks with the therapist at the end, and he like goes
Oh,
into this whole
yeah.
thing about like
That's right. That
almost
was weird.
seeing a prostitute.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was crazy.
I mean, it was interesting. So apparently, they originally shot that with like it was cross-cutting between him answering the questions and the therapist asking the questions. But in the editing, they just decided to cut out the therapist shots and just have like dissolves between each of his segments, and then have the therapist just talk over it, which was very uncommon. It's like basically YouTube jump cut editing. Like
It works,
I like
though.
it
does.
really does, but it also it stands out because it's very not of that time.
Interesting.
Especially with the whole like, don't cut.
Yeah.
Cutting is lying. You should hold on shots for a long time, which I think. I mean, I might if Michael Bay movies or some of those like garbagey action movies now that just cut all the time did that less.
Well, okay, but
Yeah.
here's the thing: is there's that. I mean, I don't know. People used to, in our friend group, used to like show that one shot from Transformers 2 that goes for a really long time. Like, see, Michael Bay can do good shit, and it's boring. I don't. It's
Right.
Yeah.
I don't remember being like super impressed.
Well,
like
and-
sometimes
okay.
he does long shots, and it doesn't make anything that he does good.
Yeah.
I am.
It's probably just because all of it is just based off of artifice, and you don't want to see the truth of the moment.
Yeah.
That's my film theory take. You don't want to see the truth of Michael Bay's moment. You just want to see him lie, because this truth is kind of sexist and
also
a bit
enforcing,
troublesome.
Yeah, very like weird nationalist, like military is so
Yeah.
fucking cool, isn't it? Just imagine blowing up. Like, okay, and this gets ingrained in kids' heads who like watch this kind of thing so much. Like my brother, when we were playing a weird Soviet Union Cold War board game that just has like this full map of like the world. And we said it was war. He's like, oh, I love war games. Yeah. And then he was like, he's like, blow up everything here, just not America. And I was like, I was like, wow, you already like within 5 seconds said something incredibly problematic.
I was
Yeah.
I'd be just like, yeah, no, we should vote.
And he was like,
America.
okay, sorry, no, don't, no, and not this either. And he circled all of Europe, and we were just like, okay, so now you're being just
Wow.
like super Eurist. Like, this is not good shit. This is what you get though.
A
when you watch-
living testament to the sort of
When you
cultural values we have over
yeah.
here.
Well, when you watch like a Michael Bay movie where like, you know, it's just all like, you know,
Military.
really boring, like Charlie Hunnam white dudes. You know what I mean? Like that's the vibe. It's like I'm sorry, I'm not trying to insult your boy. I don't.
He's in some good movies.
He's so boring. It's fine. I'm getting stared at aggressively. Or like even what was that one movie that came out more recently that had Chris Hemsworth, but he's an American for some reason?
Oh, the Netflix one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
12 Strong?
Yeah. Like
Oh,
even
yeah, that one too.
That's
I was
the
thinking
one
of the other one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the one that it's like just about him?
Anyway, I guess there's
on
a few of
Netflix?
them.
Whatever.
But just
12
let's,
Strong is probably
let's
like
get
the one
let's get the
real-
white guy with blue eyes and kind of short cropped blonde hair to like, I don't know, save one kid in the Middle East, and then the rest of the time he's just mowing down people of some other race in some other country. And wow, look at this is America. See, we're protecting the innocent by killing most of. Sorry, I don't need to go on this whole political rant, but
That's how it
this is
be.
this is how people perceive things.
Yeah.
And I can't even remember how that connects to what we were talking about before. But
Cultural
aggravates
differences.
me.
Cultural differences.
Yeah.
And stylistic differences
I was gonna
in
say-
editing.
I think we were talking about editing. Yeah.
Okay, well, you know, that's my take on
But-
editing.
I mean, everything is political. Everything, every decision is impacted by an ideology to some extent.
And
you know,
maybe I
greater or
just
lesser.
like the ideology of people in every other country making interesting movies. I mean, it's probably because of a better and more interesting ideology. That's my hot take.
Hot takes.
It's not okay. It feels like Truffaut is making, and this is so pretentious. It feels like Truffaut is making this movie for cinema rather than for audiences, if that makes sense. In America, it feels like the movie is made in the rigid studio system for people to watch and to make money, and that is a central theme. I don't even feel like we need to discuss the budget or how much money this movie made because it doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's very American to make something with, profit first, art second,
Yeah.
instead of the rest of the world, which seems like they like to make. Well, usually, I
Yeah.
guess. Not always. I guess.
Which is why someone like
Making
Orson
something
Welles is also
specific
really
for
cool,
art.
because it's like, whoa, bro, he's making movies and he's like, I don't care if it did well or didn't do well. This is for the art.
Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously, there's good stuff that comes out of both.
Mm-hmm.
You get
But I'm
different.
not as interested in Hitchcock.
It's
I just am
different.
not.
Oh, I didn't. I haven't even heard our Rear Window episode. Did y'all just rip on Hitchcock for like?
No, I mean, I ripped on Hitchcock,
Okay.
but we also thought the movie was really good.
Yeah.
I
Can
mean,
do both.
it's a good movie.
It is.
It's I like that movie because it's the equivalent of just like watching people intently without them knowing that you're watching the movie, which is it's the most voyeuristic film ever made.
It is, but like that's
It's like
also
meta in a weird way.
yeah.
Maybe not.
And then
in a
we're
good
being
way.
voyeuristic about the voyeurism and how voyeuristic is voyeurism allowed to voyeurs.
I just love watching people watch Rear Window. You know what I mean?
I love watching people watch Rear Window.
Nice.
I'm envisioning this like apartment complex, and it's just like I'm watching you're watching me with binoculars, watching Hunter watch this movie.
Snapsuit to another person watching another person watching another person
Yeah.
watching another person watching another person watching Rear Window.
Can see the reflection of the TV screen in his binoculars.
Hitchcock is crying tears
The
of joy
other
right now.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know.
that's the goal, I guess, of that movie. But it doesn't matter. It's dumb. I don't care. Rear Window, it got knocked out of my top 10 by the 400 blows. That's what happened
Wow. I can't believe you're ranking them. I can't
We're both
believe
ranking
you're
them.
I feel
ranking
weird
them.
about it.
It doesn't make any sense to rank these, but we're both ranking them. It's really only to have the satisfaction of being like, we watched 100 movies and Gone with the Wind is the worst one.
Yeah, that's true. Still true.
Yeah, no, I feel that. Sometimes I'm like, I just need to contextualize for anyone who wants to know exactly how much I hate this movie.
Yes, right. Also, I just want people to like have to deal with the fact Tokyo Story #1. It's becoming. I'm like, I want to have this like weird posturing of I'm like some sort of marginalized person on this podcast because I like Tokyo Story. Woe is me. I'm victimizing myself to also congratulate myself on my how brave I am.
Yeah.
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 How do we feel about the movie? I mean, you gave it a 3 stars. Okay. You gave it a 4 stars.
Kind of, it was like bouncing between like 3.5 and a 4, but I have it at 4.
But probably hitting like maybe bottom rungs of the movies we've covered so far.
It's kind of in the
middle.
Yeah.
It's a good movie that I didn't like. That is my
like,
analysis.
I kind of have the same. It's like I think it's good. It's solid. It's pleasant enough. It's a good time, but it's like, is it anything particularly like notable or special for me personally? Not particularly.
I mean, it does have that scene in the spinny room that kind of mimics a zoetrope, and you're like, oh, that's kind of clever.
I really liked that bit.
That was cool.
Because I've seen those spinny things, but I've never seen somebody like on the wall. Like usually you're still kind of standing.
Oh, those old timey ones that probably got shut down for health code violations.
That looked
but
horrifying.
Oh my goodness, that looked fun.
Yeah. Good shit. It's pretty cool. Well, it's no Citizen Kane, but hey, it's also no Children of Paradise, which is to say that it's better than that. I like it more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Agree.
That's my final thought. You can't compare them. Honestly, if I watch the 400 Blows again, it might become my favorite thing.
I might rate Children of Paradise higher than the 400 Blows myself.
Interesting.
I got more. I liked it. I was not as tired after watching that almost 3-hour movie as I was after watching this hour and a half long movie.
I really do like Children of Paradise, though. Every time I look back at it, I'm like, you know what? It was long. It was weird, but it was also like operatic and majestic and epic and dramatic in all these cool ways that Gone with the Wind wasn't. So,
actually, it was mentioned in one of the commentaries as like Children of Paradise was cinema's love letter to the theater, and the 400 Blows was cinema's love letter to itself.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
No, that's interesting. Good shit. I think French cinema is another valid form of cinema.
Yes.
Yeah.
Controversial take, but okay.
I wasn't going to say it's the best because I don't feel like it.
No, you like Japanese cinema way too much.
Yeah, I like Japanese cinema a lot. I really fucking love Jean Renoir, though. Yeah.
Oh, well.
Yeah, I feel like what we should do is like talk about maybe we should talk about the best directors that we watched at the end of this whole segment. I think we've got to do a few episodes of us like unpacking things,
big
you know.
wrap-up.
Yeah. Sure. Anyway, thanks for the ASMR there. Let's close out as we say here when we end the thing, and I say
forgot.
as we say, and then
my
Hunter
phone's
goes,
about to die, so this might go nowhere.
So as we say when we say things at the end, when I try to say that I'm saying things over and over again.
Are you saying things? Are you saying things at the end of the podcast?
Yeah, until the end when Hunter gets to that point where he finally finds a quote.
They put up a nice one on an image for me. Sometimes I'd tell them the truth and they still wouldn't believe me, so I preferred to lie. I felt that. Hooray.
It's a snappy kind of quote. It's a snappy kind of movie. Okay, thank you for listening. You can find us on movieoverloadpod.com. You can find all of our links to all of our things. Shout out to our patron, our best boy, Silas. He wins. He has a place in all of our hearts.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's it. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Wahoo.
We'll see you next week or right now or yesterday.